The following podcast is a Sempronto Media production.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. And we have Ben Azadi here on our podcast, and he is a keto expert, but also an intermittent fasting expert. So we're going to be talking about how intermittent fasting and keto just work hand in hand. And Ben, is actually from Iran. And a lot of you guys don't know this because I don't tell anyone this, but actually my dad is from Iran. And the reason why I don't tell people is because I feel like I'm Christian. And so like people are like, oh, you're Iranian, like you're a terrorist, it's just kind of that kind of like, connotation that some people have. So I just kind of don't even tell people very often. But the funny thing is I was actually born in Iran, and my name when I was born was Angela Panahiniya. And then my mom, when I was 10, I think I was 10 years old, she actually went to go get a tarot card reading. And the lady said, you need to change your name and your kid's name my name was Chantel Kovesi Voshan. So my name was actually Angela Panahiniya on my birth certificate. And then, isn't that crazy? And then she became a Christian. But anyway, bottom line is my new name. But anytime I get like wild at a party, like everyone will be like, ooh, Angela's coming out, so it's kind of funny. But anyway, Ben, tell listeners a little bit about you and what got you into the Keto Kamp.
Yeah, super cool. I'm glad that you shared that. And we were just talking offline about that. To give you an example as well, my first name and last name is totally different than what it is here, right? So on my birth certificate, it says Behruz Azadi. Here, it's Ben Azadi. So I have a similar story to you. I'm the founder of Keto Kamp, best-selling author of 3 books. And our mission at Keto Kamp is to educate and to inspire 1 billion people on planet Earth to cut through all the noise out there in the health space when it comes to keto and fasting and health in general. And we specialize on these ancient healing strategies, one of them being fasting. Fasting is actually my favorite tool in the shed. So we have a podcast, a YouTube channel, and we're just dedicated to just getting this information out there. That's why I'm so grateful to be on your platform today.
Awesome. Well, so don't you have a book called the Intermittent Fasting Cheat Sheet? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So give us some tips that you give in there. Like what would you say are some of the biggest tips that you'd say? Give us 3 big tips from that book.
Yeah, I would say number 1 would be understanding the delicate balance between 2 pathways in the body, autophagy and mTOR. And I'm sure you've spoken about these pathways, but I'll break it down either way. mTOR is that anabolic growth pathway. So whenever I'm teaching mTOR to clients or on my YouTube channel, I always say, when you think of mTOR, think of bodybuilders, think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's growth. It's not a bad thing. It's actually very healing in small bursts. It's only a bad thing when you are an mTOR all the time, meaning you're not fasting, you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, you're this constant sugar burner. Then it's an issue because then you have these cells that are damaged and they start duplicating and replicating, leading to disease. So if you want to age faster than anybody you know, stay in mTOR, eat every 2 to 3 hours. That's when it becomes an issue. The opposite of mTOR is this amazing process called autophagy. And the Greek definition of autophagy is eat thyself. The body is so stinking smart. It is the world's greatest healer that we have within the human body, that when you don't have food, you're not eating food energy, the body needs to get energy from somewhere. So we have this innate intelligence within us that actually looks for damaged senescent cells, damaged mitochondria and proteins. And the analogy that I like to share is that think of the refrigerator that we have inside of the kitchen right now. We open the fridge and we have groceries that all have an expiration date. What will happen if we let all those groceries inside the fridge expire, but instead of throwing them into the trash, we kind of just buy new groceries, put them in front of the old ones, close the door? It's going to be disease, mold, bacteria. It's going to be a toxic environment. Well, the human body is like this refrigerator. We have cells and proteins that need to be thrown out, recycled. And autophagy is that process. So we have 70 trillion cells in the body, and 70 billion of them need to be recycled and regenerated every single day. So that's what autophagy does. And you activate autophagy during a fast. The body is so smart. So it'll look for these cells. Think of Pac-Man going within your cells, cleaning out the junk And when the innate intelligence has determined that a cell cannot be recycled, that cannot be regenerated, it's this senescent zombie cell, then it signals something called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, cell suicide, and then it signals a healthy stem cell. So we get free stem cells through fasting. So the question is, don't we want to get all the autophagy we can get? Then the answer is no, because if we do too much fasting, the body will need to get energy from somewhere. So once it's done eating all the bad stuff, it'll actually go for the good stuff, and it could weaken the immune system. You could lose hard-earned muscle eventually. So there's a delicate balance between mTOR and autophagy. So the first tip is finding a fasting schedule that gives you that balance. So when you're eating, you're feasting, you're activating mTOR, and then when you're not eating, you're fasting. So that's the first step right there. The second tip is to understand that fasting is like a muscle. We want to develop it over time. We wouldn't just do a CrossFit workout after being a couch potato for 10 years. It'll look ugly. We'll hurt ourselves. So fasting is like a chainsaw. It's a very powerful tool that could get the job done if you know how to use it. So more important than the tool is the person who wields that tool. So there's no such thing as a failed fast. If you go 14 hours and you just can't go any longer, well, congratulations. That is a success. You build and work your way up. So that's the second tip. Build that muscle every single time. Do a little bit longer if you want, but it's not something you go right into and just do a 5-day fast. We want to work that muscle. The third tip is going to be breaking the fast. Let's talk about that. I see a lot of people negate a lot of the benefits from a fast with the way that they break it. So there are two ways to break a fast. Well, I'm going to talk about the worst way to break a fast, which is going to be a combination of carbohydrates and fat. We don't want to break our fast with a combination of carbohydrates and fat, because when we are ending a fast, whether it is 18 hours, 24 hours, or even longer, our hormones are sensitive, which is great. One of those hormones is insulin. So for example, if we break our 24-hour fast with, let's say, avocado toast, you have a combination of fat and carbs. The bread is going to spike glucose, and your hormones are very sensitive. So insulin will grab the glucose and take it to your cells, unlock your cells, and do a really good job at delivering the glucose into the cells. But when you have fat with that meal, the fat goes along for the ride, and it'll slow down fat loss, and you won't get the maximum benefit from the fast. So the best way to break a fast, if you want to accelerate fat burning and get a little bit more autophagy, is more protein and more fat. That is what I like to do. So like a bone broth or eggs and avocado. So those are my 3 tips for you, Chantel.
Okay, so let's dive into there real quick about what's the best thing to eat when breaking your fast, because that is a huge question that people ask. And to me, it really depends on how long you've been going for a fast, right? Because if you're doing a 48-hour fast, you're doing a 3-day fast, there's a difference in, what you're going to eat then versus what you're going to eat if you're just you're doing an 8-hour eating window, or, you've just done a 20-hour fast. So let's talk about that. Let's just say someone is give us some more things of how much protein versus fat that someone's going to eat. Let's say that someone's just eating an 8-hour window. They're doing 12 to 8 every day. It's 12 o'clock. What are some things you're saying these are great things to eat when you're breaking that fast?
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. If you're doing more of an extended block fast, 3 or more days, there are even more considerations. But we'll talk about the person who's doing like a 16-8 or an 18-6. I'll give you some examples. I'm not really a big fan of tracking the macros and the calories at all. I think the body is not a bank account, so we're much more complex. But here are some examples, like a piece of steak, a lean protein with some fat. So cooked in olive oil is great, or an egg on top is great. Bone broth is one of my favorite ways to break a fast. I use high quality bone broth. It also has other benefits to it. I like eggs and avocado, like I mentioned earlier, or a protein shake, like a fatty keto protein shake. But the goal is to have most of it be consisted of protein and fat with minimal carbs. And that will lead you to more fat loss and more benefits. And it'll make it easier to go right back into your fast when you do so.
I don't know about you guys, but I've been doing a ton of cooking lately. And I've been having so many new recipes. Go to chantelrayway.com/free recipes to get the best kale dressing recipe you'll ever have, the dairy-free artichoke dip that you will love for completely free. I also want to give you my entire free smoothie book that has the best smoothies. One of the things that can help you lose weight is just to replace one of your meals with an amazing smoothie. So if you're eating 2 meals, just make one of them a smoothie. You can get my free amazing recipe book at chantelrayway.com/free recipe. And our protein shakes are amazing as well. And right now they're 30% off. Go to chantelrayway.com, click on store, and use podcast for the 30% off your protein shake. Let's say that it's 12 o'clock. Let's say someone's doing 12 to 6. And so it's 12 o'clock. What would you eat first? Like if you were going to have bone broth. So let's just say you were having bone broth. That's not all you're going to eat for lunch. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to have a cup of bone broth and then I'm going to wait 15 minutes, or what would be the next step for that?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about the optimal way to do it, then yeah, you would have your bone broth ideally, and then you would probably wait an hour, and then you would have like a fatty salad. I'll give you an example. So a big bowl with arugula or dandelion green or dandelion greens or whatever your favorite greens are, with some avocados and some olive oil. So a big fatty salad, and then a piece of protein on top, like a wild caught fish or something like that. That could be a great routine for somebody. So bone broth to break it, wait an hour, and then have another big meal. That could also be a piece of steak after an hour with egg on top with some broccoli, something like that would be beneficial as well.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is let's say someone's eating in a 12 to 6 eating window and they're eating 2 meals. So they're eating one at 12 and let's say they're eating another at 5:30. And then you would say like at 12 o'clock, you would suggest them eating, let's say that they want to have some they want to have some sweet potatoes and some pasta or something at one of their meals. So you're just saying at the 12 o'clock meal, you would say eat your higher fat and your higher protein. And then if you were going to have sweet potatoes or you were going to have a little bit of pasta or more carbs, have that at your second meal?
Yeah, that would be ideal. You could also have your sweet potato if you choose, or healthy carbs to break the fast, but just don't have a lot of fat with it, because the fat with it is the issue there with the slowing down of the fat loss. So yeah, you could have the sweet potato and the carbs to break the fast with less fat, maybe some lean protein with it, or you could do what you just said, Chantel, and have the carbohydrates for the latter meal.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about one of the things people don't realize is that fasting is a form of ketosis. Because sometimes the one thing that I realize is they're like, when you say the word keto, they think keto diet. That's all they think of. So they think fasting is over here and keto is over here, and they really get confused about that. So can you kind of clarify the difference between keto and fasting and how it kind of goes hand in hand together?
Absolutely. Yeah, I see the same thing, Chantel. Well, keto and fasting are very similar in many ways. And a lot of people say, oh, the keto diet is a fad. Intermittent fasting is a fad. It's just trending, but it's going to go away soon. I don't think so. Because when you look back at history, 2.5 million years since humans have been around, they've been fasting since day one, and they've been in ketosis because they've been fasting since day one. So 2.5 million years, this is not going away anytime soon. Keto and fasting are not fads, they're facts. And a lot of people have this misconception that, okay, I'm going to do keto. I'm going to eat a whole bunch of fat. I'm going to eat a whole bunch of protein and bacon and cheese to get into ketosis. That's not really how it works. If you want to achieve ketosis, the fastest and most efficient way is to do it with intermittent fasting, because it's really about bringing your carbohydrates low enough. Now your body can start tapping into your fat stores. Keto and fasting are the perfect pairing because they both keep your glucose and insulin low. They both help your body start tapping into fat and burning your fat stores for fuel. So the way that I teach it, I have a 4-pillar approach that I teach to the members of my Keto Kamp Academy. The first 14 to 21 days, I teach the members to get keto adapted, to start utilizing fat instead of sugar. And then we start pairing intermittent fasting. And it's such a 1-2 punch that goes together very well. And they don't have to be separate. They could go and mesh well brilliantly. It's a great pairing right there. So that's the huge misconception, is that they think it's different, but it's really similar. You just bring your carbs low enough, you practice fasting, your body taps into fat stores, you produce ketones.
Awesome. Now I want you to talk about mTOR. And by the way, if you're listening to this, mTOR is spelled capital MTOR. And we talk about autophagy all the time on the show. So I don't want to dig too far into autophagy because we talk about it a lot, but we don't talk about mTOR a lot. So I want you to really expand on that and explain again what it is and try to give us some real practical examples of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So mTOR stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. And like I said earlier, it just signals anabolic growth in the body. Those who are under the age of 18, they need more mTOR. They need more growth. They're still growing bodies. Those over the age of 65 need more mTOR. They need more protein. So protein signals mTOR. Carbohydrates and calories signal mTOR. And what it does, it could be very healing when you have it in short bursts. So it is the counterbalancing act to autophagy. When we look at the human body, we have 70 trillion cells. Like I said earlier, every cell is designed for these feast-famine cycles. We are hardwired for the old school. So when we start mimicking the way it was for our ancestors for so many years, the body will start to heal and the body will achieve perfect health. So one of those ways is to get this proper balance of mTOR and autophagy. So that means when you're eating, it's important to eat until full. Develop this relationship, this intuition with the body to know that you're full, you stop eating. You're going to have plenty of protein to signal mTOR. In fact, I actually dedicate 1 day per week where I teach the members of my academy to do no fasting. You know, if you've gone through all the pillars, let's have what I call a flex day where we do mTOR all day. And it could be with high carbohydrates, healthy carbs to even get out of ketosis, or it could be with high protein. Both will signal mTOR. And what that will do will give you that nice balance of mTOR, and then you go right back into fasting, and then you go right back into the autophagy, which is more catabolic. So if you could master that, which is, by the way, unique for every single person, you have to kind of figure your schedule out. But the mTOR can be great for workouts. The mTOR could be great for energy levels. The mTOR could be great for those who are older the age of 65, who need more protein. So it's a great tool in the shed.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about some flexible fasting because I liked what you just said and having that flex day. Because it's so funny because when we see people who are stuck, let's say that every day they're just fasting from 12 to 6, they're doing the same thing, or they might be doing one meal a day and they're just doing that same thing and they've lost a lot of weight and then they just plateau. And then they're like, I'm in a rut. And so I'll give you a couple of ours that really worked well. But example, maybe someone would eat in a 8-hour window or a 10-hour window on Sunday, then do another 24-hour fast and then lose weight. But like adding that one flex day seems to kind of catapult. Can you talk about that at all?
I agree with you. Exactly. Because when we look at, for example, great coaches and great personal trainers, like fitness coaches and personal trainers, what do they always do? They're always changing up their clients' workouts to keep the body guessing and to keep them to continue getting results. If somebody hits a plateau with their workout, you change your workout and you get results. It's the same thing with our keto and our fasting schedule. So if you've been doing the same 16-8 and you're plateaued, like Chantel just said, throwing in a 24-hour fast could be huge. Maybe you're doing too much fasting and you've been doing OMAD for a very long time. Maybe it's time to have a flex day where you do no fasting. You have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, high healthy carbs, high protein, and you actually activate the mTOR. It's the change. It's the adaptation that is magic here. It's more important than what you're changing to is actually the change itself. So when you create this adaptation, the good cells in your body, they get stronger, and the bad cells do not adapt. So your mitochondria that are good become stronger mitochondria. Your mitochondria that are weak, that cannot burn fat anymore, your body gets rid of them. But it's the adaptation that creates this. So adaptation is king. Adaptation is what rules here. And when you have a flex day, that's what happens in the body.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about keto for just a second, and I'll tell you my opinion. So I don't eat a really high carb diet. I try to eat, pretty low carb. I'm not eating massive amounts of carbs, but when I want them, I definitely have them, and I don't deprive myself, because one of the things I've seen people do with the keto is they do keto, strict keto. They lose all this weight, and then they just get into this binge session where they massively binge because they've deprived themselves. And I'm really big on not depriving myself, because I believe for me, anytime I've deprived myself, I get crazy. But I also know that me eating too many carbs, it's like carbs upon carbs upon carbs upon sugar. It's like this, all I want is, I want more and more and more. So it's like finding that really nice dance where you can not feel deprived, but also not be, bombarding your body with massive amounts of sugar and carbs. So can you kind of talk about that fine dance that you need to do?
Yeah, I'm with you. My company is Keto Kamp, and I love keto, but I'm not one of those keto educators who say keto all the time forever. I think there's actually dangers to that. So yeah, keto flexing is my jam right there, and I'm a big fan of it. For example, I'll give your audience the 5-1-1 rule protocol that I have in my academy. This is actually developed from Dr. Pompa, my mentor, and maybe this will be great for your listeners to do this. The 5-1-1 rule is as such. It's a 7-day protocol. So 5 days out of the week, you're eating keto, less than 50 grams of carbohydrates. You're in ketosis. You're following your favorite intermittent fasting schedule, 16-8 or 18-6 for those 5 days. 1 day out of the week, you're doing this 24-hour water fast where you're getting more of the autophagy, more of the fat loss. And then that final day is the keto flex day. No fasting, higher carbs, higher protein, and you're not depriving yourself because you have that one flex day. You could even have 2 flex days if you want, but that 5-1-1 rule is a great way to get all the benefits of keto and fasting and autophagy, and still all the benefits of not feeling deprived and the MTOR that we spoke about.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what I do. Like 5 days a week, I do 12 to 6. I eat in a 6-hour eating window. One day I'll do a 24-hour full fast. And then one day I pretty much would say I'm only eating in an 8-hour window, maybe 9. It's not like I'm not eating from, 6 a.m. to, craziness. But on that day, I'm a lot more lenient. I'm eating, whatever I want. On the days that I'm 12 to 6, I'm not counting every carb. I'm not looking at it. I'm just more carb conscious. I'm just, on those 5 days, I'm just eating less carbs. I'm eating lots of protein, fat, and veggies, and then just not going crazy on the carbs.
I love it. You're already doing it, Chantel. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Hey guys, one of the things that will take your weight loss to the next level is coaching. You can either work one-on-one with me or one of our certified private coaches. If you'd like, you can schedule your free call. It's a 10-minute strategy call just to see if coaching is going to really take you to the next level. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to this recent review a happy coaching client sent in.
Thanks so much for your help and guidance. I never could have done it without you.
The other thing is listening to the audiobook. Listening to the audiobook and getting the video course that I've done. People are seeing dramatic results. If you just listen to the audiobook 30 minutes a day over and over and over again and get the video course, go to chantelrayway.com and check out the video course. You won't be sorry you did. So as far as any other things that you can say when people are in a rut, like if you said, okay, here's some questions I'm going to ask. Like, let's say someone says, look, I was, doing so good and now I'm in this rut. What are some more tips that can kind of get them out?
Yeah, if you're in a rut, it's important to revisit the foundations of health, and that really starts with sleep. Sleep, if your sleep is not good, then it doesn't matter how much keto and fasting you do. Sleep is more important than diet and exercise combined. So I would revisit your sleep, make sure your sleep is on point, make sure you're moving around. Movement is another fundamental to health. But then also, it's really what's going on in the inside. If you have a lot of negative thoughts and hatefulness with just your thoughts, then it's going to be very difficult to heal. Dr. Will Cole once said, you cannot heal a body that you hate. Well, if you have self-hate for yourself, it's going to be very difficult to heal. If you have hate for other people, it's going to be very difficult to heal. So I would revisit your gratitude journal. I would start a gratitude journal. I would practice love and gratitude, as woo-woo as it sounds. Putting a smile on your face, the body begins to heal the moment that you smile. The body begins to heal when you practice love and gratitude. We have about 60 to 80 thoughts per day. And a lot of people think 90% of the thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before, which are usually negative. So I would advocate and recommend that we start thinking better thoughts. We start thinking thoughts of healing and love and gratitude. And then when you start doing keto and fasting or whatever it is that you're doing, it'll upgrade and you'll get much faster results because you're coming from a place of love and gratitude. So I know a lot of people think that's not a lot of people, but some people think that's woo woo, but I've seen it really work
I say
wonders.
that all the time. Oh my gosh. I'm always like, oh, that's woo woo. I say not that what you're saying, but I use that term all the time. I'm like, oh, he's a little woo woo, but
totally. And you know what, if you think it's woo woo and you want to actually put some science behind it, then I would recommend test your glucose and your ketones, and then go get into an argument with somebody or watch the news, and then go test your glucose and ketones again. You're going to see your glucose rise and your ketones drop, not even from eating something, but just from being in a stressful state. So that's what happens in the body. So I would recommend you just revisit your thoughts, revisit the fundamentals of health, and make sure those are in order. We build that foundation, and then you can start adding a supplement or a block fast or whatever it is that you want to add.
I want you to talk a little bit about dry fasting. Have you done a lot with it? Have you talked about it at all? And what is your opinion about dry fasting?
Yeah, I'm actually about to do a 24-hour dry fast with my group. I have videos about it. I love it. It's a fascinating topic. So there's two types of dry fasting. There is a hard dry fast and a soft dry fast. I'm going to unpack both of them.
Okay.
A hard dry fast is the most extreme one. It means, of course, you're not eating, you're not drinking, but also you're not washing your hands, you're not going outside in the rain, you're not showering because your body actually could absorb
Not brushing your teeth, not brushing your teeth.
Exactly, Chantel. Yeah, no water, no contact, nothing in the mouth for 20 or whatever length that you want to do it. Then there's a soft dry fast where you're still not eating food, you're still not drinking water, but you can take a shower, you could wash your hands, but you're still not brushing your teeth. Those are the two versions, but why would somebody want to do it? It sounds extreme. Well,
See, I would say that the soft dry fast does brush their teeth at least too.
Okay,
I agree with you on that, but I would say if you're going to do a soft dry fast, that would include brushing your teeth.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's totally fine. So those are the two versions or three versions. And then you could so why would we want to do it? Right. It sounds pretty crazy. Well, the body, the number one priority for the innate intelligence is survival. So you mentioned earlier you are of Christian faith. I am a strong believer in God. I have a strong relationship with God. And I believe that we were designed to thrive. We're designed for greatness. And we are just a masterpiece because we are a piece of the master. And when we deprive ourselves in an extreme way with no water, no food, the body will do whatever it takes to survive. So you could get up to 3 times the autophagy, up to 3 times the fat loss with a dry fast versus a water fast, meaning one 24-hour dry fast can be equivalent in autophagy and fat loss to 3 days of a water fast. So it's a great way to accelerate that. I do recommend you know what you're doing, you have somebody kind of coach you through it, and you have guidance, but it's a great tool in that shed, especially if somebody's really sick and metabolically damaged. It could do wonders for them as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about supplements for just a second. So what supplements, we get this question all the time. People will say, something like, I'm used to taking my vitamins in the morning. Let's say they have supplements and they say, I want to do fasting, but I need to take my supplements in the morning. Should I take them in the morning or should I wait till my eating window? If I wait till my eating window, a lot of times I'll forget because I was in the routine of having it. So what supplements, do you feel like really help you to be able to extend your fast? And 2, what is your opinion on when you should take your supplements?
Yeah, great question, Chantel. Well, sea salt for sure. That's not a supplement. I don't know, but sea salt is great. Definitely take it during your fast. You want to replenish the electrolytes that are being lost. Ideally, if you want to get the most from your water fast, we want to avoid taking any supplement during the fast. Now, like you said, that's difficult. You have a schedule and you want to make sure you don't forget. So you could stick with like the minerals. The minerals are great, potassium, magnesium. It's really the supplements that have more of the herbs in it. that can actually raise glucose and maybe slightly knock you out of some autophagy. The goal is to not push the body in any direction. We want the innate intelligence to do its thing. So that's why water and sea salt is best. I do utilize 2 supplements during a fast that actually makes a big difference, that does not push your body in any direction. Actually 3. 3. So one of them is Ion Restore from Dr. Zach Bush, which is a great redox molecule, helps close the tight junctions. You could take that. It doesn't push your body in any direction. Another one is a product called Cyto Detox, which helps flush out more toxins from the cells. It does not push your body in any direction. And then the third one is going to be molecular hydrogen tablets, which is a great supplement to have during a fast, by the way, because it actually could help with autophagy. It could help with a headache. It could actually help you feel better during a fast. So I use a product called Fast Tonic. So that's my answer. If you can, hold off until you have your eating window to take the majority of your supplements. But if it's the ones that I mentioned, those are okay during a fast.
And I'll add those in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
Well, this has been so amazing. Any other things that you want to chime in that we haven't talked about yet? And then I'll let you talk a little bit about your Keto Kamp.
Yeah. Do you want me to relate it to fasting?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say this, that let's say somebody is, doing fasting, or they're thinking about doing fasting. A lot of it is mental. A lot of it is psychological. We think, oh my gosh, how am I going to skip a meal? Or how am I going to do a 24-hour fast? The body is incredible. The body knows how to switch from burning your sugar reserves, your glycogen stores, to fat stores, and have this metabolic flexibility. It's really more of a mental psych out than anything else. To give you an example, I did a 5-day water fast last year, and that could be intimidating. It was for me the first time I did it, and all of it was all built up in my head. It was all, oh my gosh, how is my body going to go 5 days without food? How am I going to go 24 hours without food? Well, the Guinness World Record is 382 days without food. So put that in perspective. And I would argue this gentleman that went 382 days, Angus Burberry, he went from 450 pounds down to 180 pounds. He didn't have any food. He just had water and a multivitamin. I would argue this. He didn't eat food in terms of putting food in his mouth, but he was eating his own body fat. Therefore, we have an option. We could get all of our calories, all of our proteins from the plate of food in front of us, from the snacks, the protein bars, the shakes, or we can get it from our butt, our hips, our waist, perfect for your podcast, and our thighs, right? So it is really our choice. Let your body have that flexibility to go back to burning fat, to burning sugar, and that's the way we were designed to be. All 70 trillion cells are designed that way. Trust in the body, trust in the innate intelligence. I have found that knowledge cures fear. Keep listening to more podcasts like this. The knowledge is going to help you get through it, and then have a coach if you want to help kind of guide you through it. But you're amazing. You're a masterpiece, and you can do it.
Yeah, I'll ask you one last question, because I know one other thing is that people with diabetes, I know that people who have type 2 diabetes, they will really kind of go against fasting because they'll say, no, I can't do it. Mentally, they say, but fasting can actually improve the way your body manages glucose and cut down on insulin resistance. And we have studies from hundreds and thousands of people who had type 2 diabetes with the combination of fasting and some keto. They've been able to reverse their type 2 diabetes. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, fasting is the main thing that a type 2 diabetic needs. I've seen so many clients have gotten off insulin and medication, their blood glucose medication. Now, we do want to make sure we're taking caution. You're working with your doctor, you're monitoring. If you're type 2 diabetic and you're doing fasting, it's imperative to check your blood glucose and ketones throughout your fast. And you want to see the right trend. You want to see your glucose drop and ketones rise during a fast, but you don't want your glucose to drop too much. So keep in mind, when you're taking glucose reducing medication and you're taking insulin and you're fasting, you might get a hypoglycemic event. So you want to make sure as you get healthier and as you continue to test your glucose, you work with your doctor to start reducing the medication. But it is the one thing that a type 2 diabetic needs is a proper fasting schedule, working with their doctor, monitoring their numbers, and you should be able to get off those meds one day.
Awesome. Well, tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Yeah, Chantel. So my Keto Kamp podcast would be great. Since this is a podcast, you could go and listen to some of my podcasts. We put out 2 new episodes per week. We're a top 15 podcast here in the United States, alternative health category. And then if you want to watch a lot of my videos, we just, on my YouTube channel, the Keto Kamp YouTube channel, it's Camp with a K. If you're listening here, it's a Camp with Keto Kamp with a K, youtube.com/Keto Kamp. We have a great community on there. And then you could just look me up on any social media platform and I'll pop up. Ben Azadi is my name on the social media platforms.
Awesome. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you guys stay tuned. We have another episode coming up in just a few. Bye-bye for now.
This has been a Sempronto Media production.